Good morning. Well, it's morning for me. I don't know what time you're watching this, but I am on my way to work. And I was just listening to Kanye West Stronger. And this isn't really related, but it's kind of related. And he, in the later half of the song, he says, "And I'd do anything for a blonde D word," the D word. And what? Every time people do not know how to drive. This man almost hit me turning, and it wasn't even looking at me. Well, I don't know if they're a man. I'm not going to assume gender, but that person, regardless, that person wasn't looking at me and could have hit me. But anyway, I was listening to that song, and it just had my, the conscious thoughts. They always just be going, just thinking how there is so much ableism. That word is not ableist. It's homophobic for people who do not identify as lesbians or within the LGBTQ community as queer women to use. It's the DYKE word. But yeah, there's a lot of ableism. I was thinking how I just changed the song after that. It's damn, I can't why do we have to use these terms that are not ours? Why do we have to do that in music? And it just had me thinking about the very apparent ableism that's in music, but also in everyday life. So words like the R word is used so much in music. There's videos, there's a YouTube video I use for work in a workshop, or that I have in relation to talking about microaggressions, microaggressions against disabled people. And the R word is a big one, and it's so wild how it's used in music to refer to some wild party where people are doing really wild things. I'm intentionally not using the word crazy because that's pretty ableist to use that word too, because there are people who are actually crazy, and to equate things to actual diagnoses and actual experiences is kind of crappy. If you think about it, it's the same thing as saying, "Oh, that's so much like women," or "Stop acting like a bitch." When people say "stop acting like a bitch," bitch is very related or connected to women and femininity, and it's a negative thing when you say that, and that doesn't really feel that great. So using words like the R word, or saying this weather's bipolar, or my girlfriend's bipolar, or my partner's bipolar because they're mad about me cheating on it, it's just kind of because they flip on the switch. That's not how any of that stuff works. But the R word is probably, the bipolar is used a lot in terms of people who are indifferent, or when things are just not consistent. But you can use words like inconsistent or unpredictable. This weather's unpredictable. The weather yesterday was quite unpredictable. So was it yesterday? I don't know, but there was apparently a wildfire. I don't know where it was from, but we got smoke over here. I thought it was just muggy, and it was also apparently hailing in the same state in July, the summer. So that's very inconsistent. That is very unpredictable, so it's we don't use actual diagnoses to describe things or people or behaviors. It's not okay, because it I feel like I'm yelling, but it diminishes or completely erases the actual lived experience of people with those diagnoses. Now the R word, I don't even know if it's really used that much medically, but that's not a word we call people. It's not a word we call people. Or even when we say, even saying somebody's slow, that's even a little problematic. I think that's very cultural and could also be very regional. I only know, I'm mostly around black people my entire life, and I've only known black people to use the word slow to refer to somebody, and it's I don't even know if lights on, nobody home. But you can also say they're absent-minded, they're not the brightest crayon in the box, not the sharpest tool in the shed. There is still reference to that without using words like slow, because when we talk about someone that we suspect may have an actual mental disorder or intellectual disorder, y'all use slow. Or we use slow. I'm going to include myself in that because I sometimes still use the word too. We use slow. But when somebody's they're not getting the joke, we're you slow. How is that the same? That's not the same. So we can't just be throwing around disabilities. You're literally throwing around disabilities to describe the weather, to describe somebody who isn't understanding the game, the actual rules of Uno. Like, I don't know, I made that up. Everybody has their own rules for Uno, but it just made me think. But the R word is used so much in music, so much. Like, the Black Eyed Peas got in hella trouble. The song used to be, let's get the R word, let's get R word. And now it's let's get it started. And they use that word a lot in their music. And it's like, damn, like how, like when you really listen, like next time you listen to a song, listen to how many songs you listen to that use the R word to refer to some wild night. Like, okay, people is, and also your nights are not that wild. Your nights are not that wild. Okay, y'all are getting drunk. What's so wild and different about that? It's not. You're getting wild because you're taking lots of shots, because y'all are, I don't know, sniffing coke off of people's breasts. I don't know, but like, it's not that. What is this in the street? Is that drywall? Lord, just get me to work safely, to and from. But the nights don't be that wild, okay? Y'all be like, oh, it's gonna be a movie. Use that. Like, stop using the R word. Music artists, get better songwriters, or actual songwriters. Whether you are a rapper who's writing your own songs, you got a ghostwriter, or you're a music artist who has songwriters, or you're the songwriter yourself of your own songs. They're most likely not going to see this video. I'm not, like, Billboard chart topping music artists are not watching this video, but you know, hopefully it'll just be sounded out through the universe, whatever. Get better at writing. Stop using disabled terms. Stop using stop using the R word. Stop it. Y'all use it because it rhymes with so many words, and the fact that it rhymes with so many words says there's other words to use. Figure out some other way to say that your boring ass party or your regular ass party is wild. I don't want to drive over this animal, and I didn't. It's just so apparent. Like, stop using the word bipolar to describe things. Find better words. Go to thesaurus.com to look up the word indecisive, or people who call themselves OCD. If you have not received an actual diagnosis, if it is actually something that you cannot control and it is interrupting your life, that's a little bit more actually having obsessive compulsive disorder. Also, the word obsessed. I'm sick of people using the word obsessed. There are people who are literally obsessed, actually obsessed. Like, people with OCD, I don't know every single experience with OCD, but I do know that, you know, one common experience that I hear about all the time, an example, is somebody who's like, I have to wash my hands 20 times every time I go into the bathroom, and if I don't, like, I literally lose my mind. Like, I just can't do it. It doesn't happen. They'll have chafed hands, dry hands. Their skin is really bad. Their hands are cracked and bleeding from washing their hands so much, and they can't help it. You wanting to have, like, I like to have things in threes. That's not OCD. I'm just particular. You can even say somebody's anal for being wanting things so specific. Particular is a word that I have replaced OCD with. I don't like to use the word obsessed because, again, people can really be obsessed, whether it is obsessive compulsive disorder or someone's a stalker, right? I like to use the words like, I am really into this right now. People say I'm literally obsessed. No, you're not literally obsessed with that damn lipstick, because you've had it for months. You've been using it for months. If you were literally obsessed, you'd probably be using it all day, every day. It'd be gone within a week. Again, I don't know anybody who actually has been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, which is OCD, right? But I have read, and I need to do more learning, but I have read about people's experiences, like the hand washing thing. It's like, I can't help it. I cannot help it. ADHD. I've been, you know, doing some research, and I personally think that I might have ADHD. I'm not diagnosing myself, but like, the lines are lining up too well. But when people are like, yeah, I have like ADD or ADHD, for one, I've learned that ADD is not really what we're using anymore. It's just ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But when people are like, yeah, I have ADHD because you can't focus for the day, like, just stop using disabilities. These are disabilities. Stop using disabilities to just describe some little peculiar behavior that you have. And this is not to shame anybody, but I feel like ableism in particular is so so common. It's so interwoven into our interpersonal, if I say inter one more time, interpersonal relationships and communication on social media in real life. Like, we use crazy, bipolar, obsessed, OCD, and the R word so often. Like, it doesn't, like, people don't know that it's a bad thing to say these words. They don't, or not a bad, it's an undesirable thing to say these words. And I'm not saying I say it or not. I'm just letting you know that it's really crappy to say it. You can say whatever you want. In the United States, you can say whatever you want. You got freedom of speech, as long as it's not, inciting harm or harassing somebody. But freedom of speech is also in relation to the government not, restricting your speech or assembly or any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, ableism is just so interwoven. It's in our everyday life and we don't even know it. There's things that I look up all the time. Like, where did this word come from? Where did this phrase come from? And it turns out like they're really bad, like, origins. Like, a lot of words that we use for, like, dumb, stupid, like, those were actual words used in medicine to describe people who had mental disorders before we had, like, the, like, language for maybe, like, Down syndrome, for example. That was not always a diagnosis. That was not always, like, words that we have used to describe people and their existence. So words like dumb and stupid are considered ableist words, and those are really difficult to get away from. So I just say, like, not smart. That's just what I usually replace it with. I'll put in, like, a couple of word chart infographics, or just infographics that I found of words to replace with ableist terms if you want to. Again, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. If you want to keep using the R word, then go ahead. If you're around me, I'm going to tell you that's not a good word to use, and don't use it around me. If you're one of my friends and you're watching this and you use some words, I'm like, don't use that. That's not a good word. Use something else. Like, say what you really mean. That's another thing. Say what you really mean. Stop using words that aren't really what you mean. Are using the R word when you really mean, wow, they took 10 shots last night. Like, whatever. That's my own tiff about, like, music artists and rap artists and whomever, like, saying, like, oh, it was a movie last night. And it's like, okay, y'all danced, had drinks, there was hookah, and somebody hooked up with somebody last night. And had sex with someone last night. Maybe it was one night stand or whatever. Does that sound so out of the ordinary of anybody else's experience in this world when they party? If you go to the UK, if you go to Dubai, probably, I'm pretty sure the nights are the same. Or that's like a regular, typical night. Even if there's a fight that breaks out, that seems pretty typical for me. So it's like, especially the music that I listen to, like, I'm pretty sure every music artist that I've heard use the R word to describe their night has been in a party where there was a fight, whether they would have won a fight, and even if they were shooting. Now, that's dangerous. We want to use the word dangerous, life-threatening, right? There's just so many words to be able to use that we don't have to use disabilities to describe things. If you replace disabilities with race or a gender or a sexual orientation, which, it happens. People say, like, that's gay as hell. And it's like, no, when I see two men kissing, I'm like, wow, that's gay as hell. There's a whole nother video that I'll probably do about, like, sexual orientation. What are you doing when you're crossing the line? I'm almost to work, but that's my thing. That's all I have for now. Until next time, Raging Black Girl out.